afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it was a power-packed speech by Dushyant. Hope we'll keep you engaged. So the topic of the session is podcast, literature of present. So I have two people, one Anuradha ji, another one we have Kushal Mehra ji. I have a set of questions which I would like to go by that particular flow for the day. So we'll start with Anuradha ji and then we'll go to Kushal ji. Podcast is a term what is very popular now, and a lot of folks would like to become podcasters. And if you see apps like Spotify enable people to become podcast. Post 2019, if you see, there's a huge growth in the social media and the revenue through social media. People are making a lot of money through social media by putting out content. In short, it's called content creators, social media content creators. And one of the sexy format in the current context that appeals to a lot of youth as well as a lot of folks who are above 50. That is a large section that's totally on the internet, is podcast. Let's hear out from Anuradha ji. What does podcast mean? Has it been there or is it new, or what does she think about it? Then we'll go to Kushal ji.
Namaste, Jai Shri Ram. Today morning when Governor Arif Mohammed Khan ji was speaking, he said something in English which in Hindi says Nitya Nutan Chir Puratan, which essentially means it is always aging and still eternally youthful. So podcasting is also one such platform. The medium is new for sure, digital medium is new, but if you read any of our scriptures, they are a conversation. And a podcast is also a conversation, either between two people, a host and a guest, or between the listener and the host. Second, it is the return of oral tradition. Somehow, if you think that the Shakti in the universe or on the earth is moving back from west to east, then the oral tradition is also making a comeback with platforms like podcasting. So we are going back to oral tradition, we are going back to conversations. And what do conversations do? They take your questions. So we start imparting you knowledge from where you ask question, from where your curiosity is, your jigyasa is. So these two things, I think they come directly from our scriptures, or they've come back in the same format as our scriptures were. Another thing, in Ramayana and in many, many other places, when you define the forms of bhakti, there are Navadha Bhakti, 9 types of bhaktis that you can do, and the 2 of them are Shravan and Manan. And podcast enables you to do Shravana at your convenience, on your fingertips, using your mobile phone at any point in time. So if you want to engage in the Shravana Bhakti using a new age platform, I think podcast is the easiest way to do that. You can also do Manan post your Shravana and then hopefully move on to other forms of Bhakti. So yes, it has roots in our ancient traditions of communication, which is oral tradition, conversations. I have been thinking why conversations work better. So if you look at a lot of popular podcasts today, including his, you will see these are conversations. So there's a question, there's an answer. If you go back to scriptures, all our scriptures, Puranas, Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, everything has been told in conversation. So somebody asks a question, it leads to an answer. At the end of the answer, there is a gap left, which is then converted into the next question. And that is how a good conversation art moves. It invokes a curiosity in you for the next question. And that, if the host is good, if he has researched the subject well, they can do it. Are they doing or not is a question, but they can do it if they follow the arch that is typically followed in our scriptures. Does that answer?
So thanks, Anuragji. So Anuragji says that podcast is nothing but a way of telling a story or a conversation between two or more people. And she says it is there in our blood. It's there in our country for quite some time. Now coming to the modern parlance, I think a lot of us know Kushalji with his friends. Who does there are some high TRP, high viewership podcasts. So Kushalji, what do you think about putting out a opinion which you feel is right at that particular point of time, and it gets a lot of attention from people, and it might be liked by a lot of folks, or it might not be liked by a lot of folks. There is an outrage when a particular opinion is expressed by people. In olden days, I don't think the outrage would be expressed openly. But coming to the current parlance where the social media is viewed and the internet is across, people instantly express their opinion. They get personal to an extent. So, podcast as a medium in a modern parlance, how do you see it?
Am I audible? Well, a very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you very much for organizing this. It's been a wonderful experience. Podcasting in its modern avatar starts in the United States of America through talk radio. The biggest one would be Howard Stern. Howard Stern had his own radio show where you would go. It was a different format, but Howard would have guests coming in. He would have multiple guests coming in. And the first big podcast that comes out of the United States of America is Opie and Anthony. I don't know how many people know this, but podcasts was not made famous by serious people. Podcasts, even today, 90% of the most popular podcasts in the world are run by stand-up comics. Stand-up comics run podcasting in the world. India is the only exception where stand-up comics either are not good. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not being judgmental here, but in India, you don't have the most popular podcasts. So let me give you the run-through of popular podcasts across the world. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a stand-up comic. Then you have Bad Friends. That's Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee, stand-up comics. And you can go on, Two Bears in a Pod. There are many other podcasts. You can go across the world and you'll see podcasting is in fact, the serious podcasting genre was tapped into by Sam Harris or Lex Friedman and a few others, but they're actually the minority. They're not the norm. Podcasting is basically, in Hindi, we call it baketi. And sometimes you can be serious also. So it depends on what you make of it. To answer your question, and actually it has a very high failure rate. Only 5% of podcasts globally make money. Only 5% globally make money. Yeah, so basically, there was a famous line by a journalist in Mumbai, Maharashtra. His name is Sachin Kalbag. And Sachin had once famously said, everybody is podcasting, nobody is pod listening. So that's pretty much the reality. And in that, some of us, with deep appreciation for my listener base, who have managed to survive, the monetary aspect is not there. A lot of people have misconceptions as if podcasts are interviews. They're not. I am not obliged to do anything of that sort when somebody comes to my platform. I'm not obliged to ask a 1-minute question and then say, sir, now your turn. No, it's not like that. I will speak for 10 minutes if I want to. And you have to bear it, even though you're my guest. And that's the rule, that there are no rules. Podcasting shatters all norms. There is this classical trope in the mind of a person where if I'm on your podcast, you have to have a hierarchy. I am the Gyani, you're the Bhakt. I am the Guru, you're the Shishya. No. Sometimes I'm the Guru, sometimes you're the Guru. So you should, if you're coming on a podcast, you should be prepared to be a Guru and a Shishya simultaneously. If you can't, then you're not cut out for it. It's a very different format. It's a format where, you should not take yourself so seriously while you're being serious. And if you're able to do that, then you're going to do it. That would be my answer.
Yeah. Okay. So he had put out he's put it out very boldly, saying कि जो मैं बोलूँगा आपको सुनना पड़ेगा. Now, in the modern parlance, he's right. Now, again to the olden days, where the guru sishya or the questioner listener, the format is fixed. Wherein there be opportunities for person to question back, wherein there arguments, wherein there debates between people. How do you see the conversation? I'm taking the podcast as a just a format between two people, a guru or a sishya or a teacher or a learner and a student, things like that. So what do you think about the way Kushal ji said about कि मैं बोलूँगा मेरा point रखूँगा, I will make my point. It's not that you are at the hierarchy at the top. So what do you think about it?
Right. Before I answer that, I want to add to what Kushal has said about making money. So he said 5%, he's being generous. I think maybe 1% or maybe 0.1% of people make money, okay? But I would not say it is specific to podcasting, any creative field. Writers, 0.01% make money, filmmakers, artists, dancers, any creative field has a very small space where the winner takes all. So it is the same with podcasting. So a very small percentage of podcasters take that. Now coming to your question of how the conversations were in the olden days. So the conversations depend on the two people and relationship between them. If it is between a guru and a shishya, then guru will probably be higher up in the hierarchy and giving gyan. But our traditions always encourage questioning. So if you've not understood, you will keep questioning till you understand what you're trying to understand, right? Or if it's between two friends, two equals, then you will have a freewheeling conversation where something, you may start somewhere, A leads to B, B leads to C leads to, and you may reach any letter. So it all depends on the type of conversation. Those conversations in society have always existed everywhere in the world. And today we are making it a formal, sometimes personal, not personal as in personal, but conversations between two people. We are making it available on a public platform for public consumption and for public feedback. Right? So these conversations have always existed and it depends on the format. Now in his format, he probably takes a conversational route where he has the same level of knowledge on the subject. But I have seen hosts who do not even do research. They will start by saying, can you tell me something about yourself? It reminds me of my first job interview. Okay. Or I've had one podcaster ask me, मैं तो आपको क्या ही introduce करूँगी, please introduce yourself. So there are all kinds of people. Over a period of time, the best ones will survive, thrive. So the conversations always exist, and the quality. And one of the things about digital platforms is that the entry barriers are not there. All you need is a mobile phone, and you can start. So, which means there are a lot of people who'll start, and I've been blogging for 20 years. I started my blog in 2004, and it's 2024. And believe me, in these 20 years, I have seen so many bloggers come and go. And so many bloggers who have openly challenged, saying that we are going to beat you at your own game. Yes, please beat me if you can sustain yourself for 2 years. Okay? And here I'm standing, and most of them have fizzled out at some point in time. So it's about perseverance. It's about being passionate about what you do. It's about genuinely enjoying the conversations that you do. It's about having a knowledge, investing time, energy, effort into learning a subject and then sharing that knowledge with people. I know it's not easy because I have a Chotu Motu podcast in English, which has only 40 episodes. And it takes a lot of time to research people, know about their work, talk to them about it, get them to speak. It's not easy to find people who are subject matter experts. When you find them, it's not easy to find people who are good at speaking, who can speak the language in which your podcast is. So all those things bring down your list. Right? So, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did answer my question. So one of the things, to add to what Kushalji was saying is, a conversation between two people. And I would always take this example, which my father keeps saying, is the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna knows that Krishna is the God, but still he keeps questioning, he keeps doubting, he asks a lot of questions, and Krishna patiently keeps answering all the questions. Okay, so I would consider that would be one of the earliest forms of, conversation. It can be made into a good podcast if somebody is trying to make it. I wrote a small, proposal that how can that format of conversation between two people, especially Krishna and Arjuna, can be made into a podcast
It's
without.
actually the best performing podcast out of India.
Again, Anudharaji comes from a very traditional, very specific outlook in terms of, things go smooth. Now, to Kushalji. So, in the modern parlance, podcasts are used to set out narratives. It is used to, convey specific messages. And it is easily dominated by, like Anudharaji said, there is no entry barriers to get into podcasting. There are a lot of softwares, free softwares, which enables people to quickly get into, start podcasting. They can say, I can afford podcaster. Spotify gives you, you subscribe to it, you can become a podcaster in no time. Now, how is this medium used in, distorting, literature or distorting specific, image or a narrative, and how it is, used as a medium of propagation? How do you see it?
There's nothing unique to this tool. Every tool is open to that. I mean, books are open to it. Mainstream platforms are open to it. There is no single platform that can't be used or abused for as far as... at the end of the day, it's a battle of ideas. The problem is very different. In terms of the internet, because of the low entry barrier, it's like a double-edged sword. So... I'm not calling for censorship. I'm actually infamously known for being an absolutist when it comes to free speech, to the chagrin of many people, till the extent that anything goes outside of a call for violence for me. But at the end of the day, the problem when you create no entry barriers is, unlike the old model, right, where let's say if you are writing for a mainstream newspaper, there is an editorial. Whether you like it or not, you have to work with the editor. If you're an author in a decent publication, there is a process of going through the editorial. Even when you're writing a book, the editor is going to ask you questions, justify your points with citations. The problem that the internet landscape is facing right now is that we are all self-editing ourselves. And what sells on the internet the most, whether people like it or not, is, I'm not saying podcasters are doing this uniquely, but at the end of the day, everybody has to run the house. Not everyone was blessed like me who had a family business. So I could, literally do whatever I want to in a very purist way because my factory was running. I am not here to say that I am some Mahatma. I did what I did, but I don't expect that standard from the rest of the world. So everybody is going to do what India Today did in 2012, that are aliens stealing your cows. Because that's what content demands. So today on the podcasting landscape, you will have, it's a 4 to 5 point sure shot success strategy. Either we are all going to die. Next day, our ancestors knew everything. So if they knew everything, why are we going to die in the previous day? Nobody knows about that. One has nothing to do with the other. The third is that outgroup that I hate sucks completely, and all of them have to be eliminated completely. So there are 5 or 6 genres that work on the internet. Whether you do it in an audio-only format or a video or audio format. See, think about it. Why is the internet refresh button? Have you checked it? The refresh button is like this. Every time you refresh, you go like this. Does anybody know why it was made like that? Any of you know about it? Okay, so when you go to Vegas, you know the slot machine, the good old slot machine? You know why? Because every time you do this, you get a dopamine rush. And the people who created the refresh button, they literally did it so that you become addicted. So they are your drug peddlers and you are the druggies. All of you, including us. We are all drug addicts. This is our cocaine. It's just we are not snorting it, we're looking at it. That's the reality, whether we like it or not. And in that, Whatever catches you. So you are in this unique phase of shock and awe on the internet landscape. We are either shocked or we are in awe. Everything you can boil down to shock and awe. And in that, the biggest fear that I have, which something that I have started talking about openly now, because you reach a stage in your life as a content creator where you don't care if you get 0 subscribers. I have reached that stage where I know, I mean, they can't cancel me. Basically, even if they wanted to, they can't cancel me. So now I start questioning my fellow podcasters. I was like, tell me your self-editorial policy. I have put it out. I have very openly said what I will not entertain on my podcast. If somebody says the earth is flat, you don't have a platform on my podcast. Flat earthers are not welcome. Yeah, I will insult them, but I will not call them as my equals. All ideas are not equal. All religions are not equal. I say this with no shame. So I have my editorial policy in the open. Does every creator have it? No. I'll tell you what their editorial policy is. Clicks. Whatever gets clicks. Then they should say that. I do it for clicks. I pretend to do it for otherwise.
Okay. So I'll come back. So the question what I want to ask, since he said this, is what inspired, what made you to start or pull you into this journey of, having the conversation in the social media or in the open domain? What is the inspiration, or is there a person, behind this? You look up to that person in terms of podcasting. We'll start with you.
So for me, the first time I came across podcasting is, again, you guys will judge me. I'm a fan of mixed martial arts. Everybody is like, violent man watches people fight. But I do. I mean, I grew up watching Mike Tyson, so then I started watching mixed martial arts. The first time I came across podcasting as a genre is when I started following sports podcasting. Because, by the way, in podcasts, one of the biggest genres after comedy is sport. Sport is the biggest genre, because people love sports podcasting. And sports, I'm sure all of you are cricket fans, or most of you are cricket fans. We are all cricket experts in this country, right? So I used to watch sports podcasting. And I was like, this is interesting. So you can just go on yapping, maybe not even know, and then it's a beautiful process. Eventually people figure out कि in Hindi we say इसको कुछ पता नहीं ऐसे ही बोलता है, kind of a thing, and it's a beautiful process. That's how I came across podcasting, and I mean, she'll vouch for it. It was my wife who forced me to do it. She's like, तू मेरे को बोलता रहता, तू बाहर जाके दुनिया को बोल. So my reasons were multiple. My wife basically kicked me into it. She was like, you bore me too much, you bore the world. So it worked.
Okay. So the same question to Anusada. So the format of podcasting, speaking. So what inspired you? What made you to, jump the edge, or, including the blogging, the push, and why? And I'll come to the question why next, but what made you to do it?
So for me, blogging was a journey that started, like I said, in 2004. And I was traveling and writing about destinations. I was writing a deep dive, Sthala Puranas it became over a period of time. And at some point in time, and probably, ignited by COVID as well, that I can't go everywhere in this lifetime. So the best way is to invite people to talk about the places that they know, or the cultural aspects that I want to cover, but I can't go and cover. Let me invite the experts and talk to them. So for me, it was more of a personal knowledge quest to be documented online. So that's why I have not gone on a route where, you go full blast. Whenever I find a good SME, subject matter expert, I interview them. So for me, it's absolutely filling the gaps in my knowledge.
Okay. Next question is about the challenges in terms of the content. So when people start exploring literature, when they start exploring things to do in social media, whether it's podcasting or interview or writing something, people, they begin with a particular josh. I can do this. And maybe after a month, or after 4-5 months or 6 months, they'll have a challenge, or they'll have a break even ki abhi kya karo? What should I do next? I'll not say, I don't know the right term, जैसे बोलते हैं वो mid-age crisis जैसे बोलते हैं. So do you, people especially who are in literature, who are in social media, do you guys feel the content crisis?
I will be very honest, I don't. Because my strength has always been reading. I don't have any research assistant. I am my research assistant. My strength as a podcaster has been read daily for 4 hours. I read without fail. Even today, after all of this is done, I'm going to go back to the room. I'm going to read for 4 hours. For me, data is never in shortage. The reason most people fail is they want that instant success in a very short span of time. I started very early. I kept on doing it even when nobody watched it because I didn't care if anybody watched it. I was financially secure. In the case of most people, the reason they go to our alien stealing your cows mode is because they have to run their house. Try and understand. So when you keep on following the clickbait model, eventually you run out of aliens or you run out of cows. That's the problem, which is why you see a lot of turnover in content creation. I'll give you the best example. I'm from Mumbai. So if you look at our food, I'm sure it must be there in Chennai too. You notice, right, when we were young, there were some restaurants that we would go to. You know, it's a Udupi or it's a proper like Punjabi food restaurant or something. They still do as well today. Right. They are our baseline. Yeah. Everything fails, we can go to a Udupi. We can go to a Punjabi restaurant or a Gujarati thali restaurant. Then comes fusion. Now, I have nothing against fusion food. I enjoy it myself too. But look at the turnover rate in the fusion food. Every time, and Bandra West is known for all these, ul jalul kisam ka restaurants. Bandra West, you go, you'll find all kinds of absurdities over there. The same shop, the same owner, every 6 months the menu changes. Why? Because they are experimenting. They are the dopamine hits. And the other restaurants are the baseline. In content creation, what happens is you barely have, look at podcasters and their content. I don't want to take names because it's not nice. But they might be giving you tips on how to talk to a girl, and then suddenly they are podcasting today. Why? Because eventually when you're again in the alien cow mode, you run out. So then you have to see like, acha, isse clicks nahi aa rahe. Okay, let me try that. Acha, isse nahi aa rahe. Notice in the last 2 years how everybody is discussing astrology on YouTube. It's no magic, it gets clicks. Nobody is an expert in that. I think the original Jyotish must be banging his head on the wall and like, what have I unleashed? So he was like, even I don't believe this. But that's what happens. So you see, it's just simple market rules. You will have a lot of people turning over. And the ones who are actually serious about the craft, I refuse to believe that they can run out of subjects. Because there are so many things to discuss. I cover at least 3 books every month. How can I run out of subjects? So simple. There are thousands of books that are published yearly. I just have to pick 50. How can that be hard? Am I stopping others from doing it? I'll tell you why the podcasters don't cover books. They can't read. They don't read. I'm telling you why they don't do it. I have had podcasters calling me, Bhaiya, question de do na. And these are big podcasters. So this is the problem. There's no other reason.
Yeah, can I add to that?
Yeah.
So, from the outside, my travel blogging looks very glamorous, So everybody wants to be in my shoes. Every day you are in a new place, you are traveling, this, that. So a lot of people say, we want to intern with you. So I'll say, okay, chalo, ye research karo. So why should I read for traveling? Or why should I, and within 2 to 3 days, they fizzle out and say, this is not what we expected. Because all they see is few photographs and few videos and a write-up, which they think is like how difficult it can be, especially in the days of AI and ChatGPT and all that. But when you show them the things that are not there anywhere, because ChatGPT is essentially recycling what is already there on the internet, that's when they fizzle out. So I completely agree with Kushal that a lot of people jump in because it seems easy. The entry barrier is very, very low or it's almost not there. But they fizzle out. and they're not investing into their own research.
Okay. This will be a complementary question to on the content itself. So there are a lot of people who write blogs who put in a lot of effort, months, years together to write a book. And do you think the current generation don't want to read those books and they're ready to consume it in terms of a podcast or voice notes that's readily available, or they want even a shorter form of whatever book is there available, the famous books or the old ones? For example, let me give my own example. I think there's this Tamil series called Ponniyin Selvan. It's a crown jewel work that was made into a movie by the director Mani Ratnam. It has multiple parts. I have read 2 parts of it. I couldn't read after that for whatever reasons Kushalji said. Later, much before the movie was about to release, I was traveling between Chhattisgarh, Bangalore and Chennai. So I found out listening to voice notes. The entire book would be read as voice note. It will be uploaded in a drive. You read it, you hear it whenever you're traveling. I found out it more easier for me than reading. So do you think people especially the current lot, if you look at the demographics, do they like listening to things more, especially the interpreted versions? What do you think about it?
So I was reading a statistic on podcasting, and I was pleasantly surprised to know that the average age of people who listen to podcasts in India, and this is a report as of 2024, is 21 years. So 21-year-olds are listening to, they are the prime key audience of podcasts. And I would include audiobooks in podcasts. So most of the books today are available in audio format. And I know that band of Gen Z, as they call them, they prefer listening than reading.
Listen, book sales are increasing on a year-on-year basis. So let's assume there is I'm not saying this is the number. I don't remember the exact year-on-year growth rate. Both fiction and non-fiction sales are increasing. Obviously, there will be disproportionately more readers in the fiction genre compared to the non-fiction genre. But even non-fiction readership is increasing. Let's say in 100 people, only 10 read. That's still an increase in the absolute numbers of people who are reading books. It's very interesting in the content consumption landscape also. So if once you become a creator on YouTube, once you reach a certain level, has a thing called the partnership program where they talk to you. YouTube talks to you as a creator and they tell you what to do. Basically, they're like, bhai, I want to make money from you, so do what I want you to do. That's the YouTube way of going about it. But it's fascinating to me that the 2 things that sell the most on YouTube are the 2 most polar opposite things you can think of. 60-second short videos and an hour plus long videos. 30 minutes doesn't sell on YouTube anymore. YouTube says either go the whole hog and just don't stop yapping, or stop yapping at exactly 59 seconds. So listen, there's a market for everything. If eventually you're good at something, you're going to find your niche, you're going to find your audience. Now, everybody can't be a Rajnikant or a Amitabh Bachchan. I don't aspire to be one, right? I don't want to be the #1 podcaster of India. I want to be happy with what I am doing. There is enough market space for serious podcasting, for non-serious podcasting, for semi-serious podcasting. You can create 60-minute reels on Instagram and go viral. You can do what you want. At the end of the day, tell me a time in history where human beings were consuming so much knowledge. When was that? Like, we like to think कि अरे हमारे ancestors है ना वो बहुत पढ़ते थे. क्या पढ़ते थे? क्या evidence है आपके पास? क्या evidence है? आप किस base पे? On what basis are you making that claim? Boss, today, after the printing press in the 15th century, things changed magnanimously because information was democratized, and today social media is printing press on steroids. Everybody consumes content. And how can people become dumb when there is so much good content out there? Because if YouTube knows you watch X, it so smartly in the recommendations keeps on giving you X, X, X. But yeah, I mean, there are only so many Tahir Shah songs that I can listen to, right? I mean, beyond a point, I'll run out of cringe. I refuse to believe that people are not interested. Listen, the average listening time, I don't know how I cracked the code, but the average listening time on YouTube is not more than 8 minutes. 8 minutes से ज़्यादा लोग सुनते नहीं हैं एक average YouTube को. My podcast average time is 20 plus. That means every time a person comes, at least for 20 minutes, they are hooked on to my. Nobody listens to. अगर कोई podcaster आपको बोल रहा है ना, मेरी तो हर podcast हर आदमी 1 घंटा सुनता है, वो झूठ बोल रहा है. मैं basically सच बोल रहा हूँ. I'm just telling you. But to achieve that 20 minutes, that means the people who are interested in long form, who were patiently waiting and doing it, were automatically come to me. Like, why do I love talking about books? I love reading books. It's very simple. I read them, and then if I like the book, I talk to the author and I call them. I was like, do you want to talk about your book? And it's as simple as that. This is the best time if you are an author, a video content creator, an audio-only content creator. It can't get better than this. It just can't, in my opinion.
So, Kushaji says he reads the book and he would like to talk about it. He'll invite the authors to talk about it. So now, literature, the Indian literature, it's very huge, multilingual. Do you think there is a lacuna in terms of people reading the original text and who want to put it out in public, unbiased or unadulterated content? इसका कमी है क्या लोग बात करने में, मतलब ओरिजिनल कंटेंट. फॉर एग्जांपल वाल्मीकि रामायण, प्रॉपर्ली रीडिंग इट. ओके, वाल्मीकि रामायण शायद कुछ लोग का एक्सप्रेशन देखे मेरे को लग रहा है बहुत टू मच है. देयर आर शॉर्टर फॉर्म्स ऑफ कंटेंट इन मल्टीपल लैंग्वेजेस. Reading the original text and talking about it, talking the beauty. For example, Dushyant was talking about one particular poem written by Deshika. It's called Raghuveera Gadya. It's a very complex tongue twister in Sanskrit that has all kandas of Ramayana. Are there people who have read it properly, who have understood the real meaning through a proper, literature? And are there people ready to talk? Are there multiple people ready to talk about it?
So, according to the same report that I referred earlier, some of the best performing podcasts in India are based on Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so spirituality, self-help is one of the genres that's doing very well. So which means there is appetite for that content, right? We don't have exact data, but there is appetite. Now, can we give people the content? Yes, and I see that happening in regional languages a lot. So I listen to Hindi podcasts sometimes, and in Hindi, I know there are channels which will pick up these absolutely classical Hindi poems and give you a commentary or a word-by-word translation and meaning to you. I know there are people who are reviving. I interviewed one person right here from Tamil Nadu who's reviving Dikshitar music. So he explained Dikshitar music to me as the music captures temples and how temples are captured in a lot of things through that. So there are people who are doing it, and he's doing it in Tamil. So I see that happening a lot in Indian languages, which is also a great sign, because I think oral content will always be consumed more in your mother tongue. And we end up talking of English content. So there, nobody has attempted it. So which also means maybe it's not the right language to talk about it. So if I have to, so for example, I couldn't understand a lot of what Dushyant ji was reciting because I don't understand Tamil. And I could see how the Tamil speaking people were ecstatic listening to that. So if we look at the regional language statistics as and when they are available, I'm sure there is a lot of content which is already being created.
I think there's an appetite for all kinds of things. Again, it depends on, I mean, what is your measuring metric would be my counter to that. Like, there are people who recite the Vedas as they are. And those videos are available on YouTube, not now, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 7 years ago. Multiple people have done it. Now, is your measuring metric, it has to be viewed by 10 million people, nahi to tu pass nahi hua. I don't know. You search the thing, you'll find it on the internet. And I'm not talking about non-authentic, authentic. Very well researched, the ucharan is perfect, and everything is there. So I'll give you an example. I'm Punjabi. Now I read a lot of Punjabi poetry. I can't read Gurmukhi as a script. I read it in Devanagari. So I read Bulle Shah. Now you find all the poetry of Bulle Shah on the internet. If you wanted to read it, you can. Some of the videos that I came across are written by poetry connoisseurs. They had 10 views, 15 views, and I was the 16th one watching it. But I found the entire poetry of Bulle Shah, or the Heer of Damodar Das. Like most people think Heer was written by Waris. Waris didn't write Heer. Damodar Das Agarwal wrote Heer. I wanted to get the Damodar, Heer Damodar. And it was, lo and behold, it was on Pakistani YouTube. I did not find Heer Damodar on Indian YouTube. I had to go to Pakistan to find Damodar Das Agarwal's Heer. They cared more apparently than the Indians did about it. So like I said, it's the best time to be alive. It's the best time to be alive if you are a content creator and you're a content consumer. You can find cringe like Dhinchak Puja, and you can find great singers. It's your choice. You're in the best time. Pick and choose.
Okay.
It reminds me of a doha by Rahim, which says, "Lohe ki na lohar ki, kahe Rahim vichar, jo hani mare sees pe tahi ki talwar." It says the sword doesn't belong to the the ironsmith. It doesn't belong to the one who sells it. It belongs to the one who uses it to cut the head of the enemy. So your digital platforms are exactly like that. They are available to you. It's up to you how you use them, both as a consumer as well as a creator.
Okay. We'll take one question to both of the speakers. Question to Kushal ji and Anurag ji.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Deepal. My question is, you told that audibles are part of podcast, right? So the audibles that you get, do they have the same effect as reading a book in terms of knowledge perspective, growth perspective? So is that the same effect? Because I personally believe that reading a book is much better than the audibles, hearing an audibles. Anybody?
I mean, it depends. Sometimes there are certain books that if you listen to them on Audible, I find it better. This is a very subjective process and a choice. Some books I have to read. Like let's say if books have a lot of graphs, then you can't use Audible. Now, Audible does have a PDF, view PDF option where you can download the PDF on Audible and watch it. But there are some books that I prefer listening to on audio. I'll give you an example. I use my Audible for this thing called Great Courses. These are 30-minute audios of courses. These are actually university professors teaching you lessons of 29 to 31 minutes each. So it depends on what you want to consume. I don't believe there is you will learn better through reading or you will learn better through listening. You will learn better if you're paying attention.
I'll add to that. As a listener or as a consumer, I find it difficult to consume with every accent. So that's where we face a little bit of a challenge, but I guess it's a matter of time. AI is going to sort that out for us. So if the accent is very different from what I'm used to, I find it little difficult to consume it. with respect to the accent, I understand. But like I said, it will get sorted with AI soon.
Thank you so much, panelists. There is